Alright, this is the second video. So it has been about 8 hours since I originally mixed up the dough. So the dough's nice and risen. I'll take the lid off. You can see the dough is very nice and puffy. It's about 2 inches from the top of the bowl. I have my Banneton. So what I typically do is I prep the surface of the counter. So I just move some of this stuff out of the way. So what I do is I take the flour and I just spread some flour across the surface because I need to be able to work the dough. And then I have a little scraper for the dough. So I use that to get the dough out of the bowl. You don't have to use this. If you got a spatula, that'll work. But this just helps you work with the dough. So you can use this tool for a lot of different things. So right now I'm using it to get the dough out. I can also then use it to cut the dough up into smaller pieces. So it comes in very handy when you're working with your dough. So you can see I've got a pretty nice amount of dough here. So what I want to do is I want to kind of reach under and stretch the dough and fold it on top of itself. Right? So I'm trying to get all the dough so it's kind of covered, so I don't have that really sticky dough that I have to deal with. Now, what I can do is I could just take the whole thing and put it in the Banneton and rise it and have a gigantic bread. But this seems to be a bit more dough than I really need. So what I like to do is I'll take about a third of what I'm dealing with here and I'll cut it off, right? And I set that off to the side. And then the other portion, again, I like to get the dough coated with the flour. I like to fold it up. What we're trying to do is just fold it into itself so it makes a nice ball. So there you go. And you got the nice bubbles in the dough showing you that your dough is nice and proofed. And then I like to just coat the dough, or the dough in flour. And then just take a little bit of the excess flour, put that into the Banneton. And I just use that flour to coat the Banneton. That way I make sure when the dough has been sitting in the fridge overnight. Yeah, there you go. So now the Banneton's all nice and prepped. I take my dough, I put it in, and then what I do is I cover this in the fridge. So I use just a sheet of plastic to keep this nice and sealed. It keeps all the moisture in. Dough doesn't get too dried out. It can expand in the fridge. And then when I'm ready to tomorrow, I can bake it. Now the other thing I like to do is I take this little chunk of dough, and this is good for like pretzel rolls, bagels, English muffins, all that stuff. So I just kind of prep this as well. Just kind of flatten it out and then roll it up and get it all ready. And I'm going to put this into like a Tupperware container in the fridge. And so this, I'm not trying to make a big bread. I'm just trying to let the dough rise some more. So when I'm ready, I can make some fun rolls. Typically I do pretzel rolls or bagels. The kids seem to love those. So anyway, that's all I do from here. When I'm ready to bake, I pull the Banneton with the risen dough out, take the sheet off, flip the Banneton. So I put the dough onto like a parchment paper. I typically will use something like this to just just cut the dough so it can expand, and you can do whatever designs you'd like. And I use my dough cutting tool to split up the rest of the dough so I can do the individual bagels or pretzel rolls as I see fit. When I'm baking the bread, typically I'll do 450 inside of a Dutch oven. Cook that for at least 50 minutes. I usually do about an hour. I like to get a nice dark brown on the outside. And that's it. Thanks for your time.